gotta be honest and tell you that when I knew that I was gonna talk about community, I didn't know what I was gonna talk about. Because community, at least for me, is something that I didn't have to think about it. Now think about that. There's so many things that involve community, but we don't think about it. So today, there's somebody that I wanna talk about that taught me about conflict. Now, I don't like conflict. I don't know how many of you don't like conflict. I used to run from it like the plague, okay? You wouldn't find me anywhere. But if we're gonna grow our communities, we have to get comfortable with conflict. So today, we're gonna talk about finding community in conflict. Now, before I tell you what the actual definition of community should be, I'm gonna tell you the faulty definition that I found, and I am guilty of thinking this. Since we are the same and feel the same and look the same, we're gonna have no problems. We're gonna get along just fine, and that's why we don't allow strangers or muggles into our secret handshake community. We have gotten very comfortable with that definition of community. Now, I'll tell you towards the end my very hopeful definition of community, but first, I'm gonna tell you how I got there. My little sister moved in. Now, many of you are thinking, oh, great, you guys stayed up late at night, having pillow fights and drinking chai tea, right? Well, if you have a sister, you know that that's not what happened at all. Let me tell you who I am. I am the most unknowingly optimistic person you are going to meet. I remember the time that I was stung by a bee. The first thought that came to me was like, yes, I'm not allergic. Yep, I am that annoying. Okay? Even though I care about the world, I like to care about the things that I'm working on. I'm very driven. Like, I'm just single focused. I'm going this way. I know the world is happening, but let me just do my thing. Let me know if you've ever been there. And even though I love social media, I have a love-hate relationship with it. So I'm not keeping track of who hurt who or who said the wrong thing. I don't have time for that. Just keep that in mind. Growing up, I thought that if you were fighting, that it was a bad thing. And I had to learn that conflict and fighting are not the same. Now, let me tell you who my sister is. She's not as optimistic as I am, and she loves to play devil's advocate. She knows everything that's happening on social media, and she loves to talk about it with me. Now, I already told you who I am, right? And I couldn't get away from this relationship. I don't know how many times you have to deal with people that you cannot get away with, okay? So, being the optimistic person that I am, I decided, how am I gonna deal with this? I have to figure this thing out. And this is what I realized. There was a story that I was telling myself about who I thought my sister was. And that was getting in the way of us having a great relationship. Now, have you ever been in that situation where you think you know the person? Now, you might be thinking, good for you, Catherine, but that doesn't work for me. I like to curate my community. I like to hang out with people that are just like me. But, hello, there are so many communities that you don't know that you're a part of, that you don't get to choose. Like the person driving on the highway, 60 miles an hour on the left lane, that switches at the last very minute. We love those people. How about that person that is ordering with you at Starbucks? They wait for you for 5 minutes. They get to the front of the line, and then they're like, what am I gonna have today? We wanna kill those people, at least I do. And then you have the loud whisperer at the movies, the one that you've been trying to see for months, and they ruin it for you. Or there's those PTA moms that cook and bake, and when you bring in your store-bought goods, give you the up and down. You are in community with those people as well. Now, what do they have in common, all those people? They do things their way. And they think that their way is the best way. That's exactly what I thought before this person moved into my life. And I couldn't get away with that, even though I really, really wanted to. Now, what does that have to say to you? We have to learn how to deal with people that are different. And there are different people all around us. The world has changed. Can you imagine a world without Thai food, Mexican, Chinese? I couldn't think of a world like that because I love me some food. We cannot be in a world where everybody is a carbon copy of who we are. That would be a very, very boring world. Now, how do we do that? That's like the million-dollar question, right? How do we learn to deal with people that are different? Well, just like me, we have to learn how. I discovered seven principles that help me deal with my sister, deal with myself, and with other communities. Number one, we have to listen to understand, okay? And not just to respond. I remember we used to have fights all the time, and she felt as strongly as I felt. So as she was going on, I was just looking at her and thinking, when she's done speaking, I'm gonna give her this zinger. I'm gonna get her. But while I was doing that, I was not connecting with her. I was missing the point. I was forgetting to be human. Number two, empathize with the person. I thought that if I empathized with my sister, it meant that I was endorsing everything she stood for. And nothing could be further from the truth. Actually, all I had to do is listen and say, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I respect your opinion. Number three, be honest. And with this one, we got in trouble many, many times. Because I had to say, I don't agree with you. Or, I don't really like what you're saying right now. But I live by this philosophy. I'd rather be uncomfortable for 5 minutes with the truth than be very comfortable for months or years with a lie. And after all, they say that the truth shall set you free. Number four, what can I learn from this right now? When you're fighting with someone and you're trying to get out of that situation, your body language gives you away. And you are obfuscating on that thing. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And you're missing the point. That situation is trying to teach you something. The moment that you start thinking like that, you're no longer fighting with the person. Now you're listening and you're trying to understand what they're trying to tell you. Number five, and this one I'm still struggling with, acknowledge that you could be wrong. Now, that was a hard one because I feel really strongly about my opinions. I don't know about you. And she felt really strongly about her opinions as well. But eventually, and this was a while ago, I was able to say, I could be wrong. I mean, I had to practice saying the words that wouldn't even come out. Even if it's just 5%, I might be wrong. Now, in all fairness, many times it was more than 5%, but I just couldn't say that, okay? Baby steps here. Always ask, what would you like me to learn about you or your story? And this one, it's very, very important because we think we know everything about someone or why they're doing something. I remember where she would try to find out when I was coming home. But when are you coming home? I'm like, well, excuse me, I'm a wrong woman. I take care of myself. I don't have to tell you when I'm coming home. And it kept happening over and over again. And eventually I asked her, why do you want to know when I'm coming home? I always come home, right? So she said, it makes me feel safe when I know what's going to happen. And I realized she's not trying to control me. She just wants to feel safe. When we are in community with other people, we cannot assume that the way they're doing something or why they're doing it is to push us over the edge on purpose. Sometimes it is, but not all the time. So just ask them why they're doing that. Number 7, admit that you're human and you make mistakes. I don't know about you, but oftentimes we get in trouble because we do something and we have the best of intentions, the best. but we still get it wrong. And then we get mad because the person doesn't get that we meant well and we hurt their feelings. That's what happened with my sister. And I would say, but I did not mean to hurt your feelings. I just wanted to do X, Y, and Z. But she just wanted me to understand that I still hurt her feelings even though I didn't mean to. I was missing the point. Yes, I was human, but I needed to say, I'm human, but I'm willing to do better. And when we're in community, we are so used to our own way that we forget that just because the way things are, it doesn't mean that's the way they need to be or remain. So now you might be thinking, how did you survive living with your sister? We did survive, by the way. We both learned to listen, to be honest, to empathize. I'm still working on that one. To ask better questions, to acknowledge that we could be wrong, to be willing to learn, and admit that we're human. So I want to thank my sister who's here right now. Say thank you for teaching me how to fight. It has made me a better human being. And I'm able to say now that I can see community as a key part of who we are, no matter how different we are. Now let me ask you this question. How many communities have you been avoiding and not even seeing because people don't look like you, don't vote like you? I just want you to think about that for a moment. The other question that I want you to think about is, can you use the 7 key points that I shared today to be better at community? Now, I would love for you to say, yes, Catherine, I would love to do that. I can't force you to, but I really want you to think about it. Now that I told you how I took the long way to learn about community, let me tell you what my overly, and I understand that it is my overly optimistic definition of community. A group of people with different ideas, backgrounds, goals, and dreams that come together in spite of all of that and choose to respect one another in order to make the world a better place. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a community that I would love to be a part of. Thank you.